Hello everyone, Sableye here and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about Rillaboom, aka everybody's favorite monkey or least favorite monkey depending on which side of the argument you are on. However, mainly we're going to be focusing on the fact that it no longer has access to Grassy Glide and if it's still good or not. We'll be going over some points, but to start things off, if you guys are unaware, Grassy Glide is a 70 base power move that was introduced in the Sword and Shield downloadable content. And in Grassy Terrain, this move would get priority. So basically, it would become a 105 base power attack with a +1 priority, which is absolutely absurd. And when you can set your own terrain to have access to this move, it's absolutely crazy. Now, we don't have these move tutors in Scarlet and Violet right now. And I think we're starting to be thankful for that, and we're starting to see maybe why we don't have access to things like this. And we're seeing that on Rillaboom right now. If Rillaboom still had access to Grassy Glide, Flutter Mains would probably get 1 shot. TUs probably get 2 shot. What else is good right now? Like a lot of the format would just get hit really hard, really fast. And Rillaboom is not a frail Pokemon, okay? 100 base HP with 90 and 70 in the defenses is really good. And a common functionality for Rillaboom would be having this Assault Vest attached to it, right? So all of a sudden, your defenses, you are a very bulky piece on a very balancy team. We'll get into different types of team styles and stuff later, but you can be a very bulky piece if you want it to be. But remember, you also have base 125 attack. So now you have, with Grassy Glide, you would have 105 base power move going into, or coming off of a 125 power attack with priority, which is just absurd, right? And then when that failed, you'd still have Woodhammer, but I'll get into that in a bit. But we don't have Grassy Glide anymore. And a lot of the talk was Rillaboom is going to be nowhere now. It doesn't do quite as much as it used to. Grassy Glide made it work. Wrong. Grassy Glide did not. Well, I mean, Grassy Glide made Rillaboom fantastic, okay? Don't get me wrong. But it's still a very strong piece. And I think the biggest reason for that is the niche that it has in Fake Out. Right? Much like Incineroar, everybody's favorite cat. We'll get into that in a future video. I'm sure it's coming back at some point. But much like everybody's favorite cat, Incineroar, it is a Fake Out user that has something that the other Fake Out users don't. And there's 2 ways to look at this. You can say it has the Grassy Surge, which is something other Fake Out users don't have. And you can also say that because of the Grassy Surge, you basically are a Fake Out bot. You can Fake Out. You can pivot with U-turn. That's Uproar Ryan. You can pivot with U-turn. Or if you just want to do ridiculous amounts of damage, Grassy Terrain boosted Woodhammer is absolutely absurd, right? And Iron Hands, very strong Fake Out user. Very strong attack stat. But doesn't boost itself naturally, right? Rillaboom just comes onto the field, and if I want to Fake Out, I can Fake Out. I can play the slow game. But if I just want to take, like, minimum 40% from something, even resisted probably, unless I get like to -1, I can do that, right? Woodhammer gives me that I don't want to say panic button, just that big red button to hit if I'm trying to do big damage, you know? And it's just absolutely incredible because of that. Now, we pair this somewhere beside Urshifu, which honestly, partner in crime here, okay? And these two work together super well. Right? You have the access to say, hey, I'm going to fake you out. But you can't protect from my Fake Out because I have Urshifu, and Urshifu is just going to attack through your protect. So now I'm saying don't protect. And if you don't protect, you potentially have to eat a absolutely disgustingly high base power damage from Rillaboom here with a Woodhammer. Right? So that, I feel like, just having the Grassy Terrain, not only does Grassy Terrain boost your grass type damage, which allows you to be a massive attacker, it also hinders things like Earthquake. So in a format where something like Landorus is coming back, it's not that crazy of a defensive gain with the hindering the Earthquake, the Magnitude, and the Bulldoze. Those are the only 3 ground moves that it does break. However, Earthquake alone is enough to a spot where maybe they need to do spread damage. If you have Rillaboom on the field, you're hindering that Earthquake, right? You're hindering that ground move, and that Grassy Terrain might save a piece, right? So that's just a little bit of extra there. But the terrain is this key that I think makes Rillaboom still want to be good in this format. And it just allows it to do so much more, right? It's an amazing Urshifu water counter, right? You can bulk it up pretty much to say that close combat's not going to be a 2-shot. I think you need a lot of bulk for that though, but you can do it. And you can just one-shot it back because of your Grassy Terrain, either Wood Hammer or Grassy Terrain Drum Beating. You're doing a lot of damage, right? And when Urshifu is a 60% usage mon that it is right now, there's a good reason Rillaboom is still good, right? You also have to think about something like Fluttermane. And Fluttermane is a very offensive Pokemon, but if you slow it down with your Assault Vest, you can probably take about 50%, probably less than 50% from a Moonblast from this Fluttermane, and you can one-shot it back. Or the more balanced approach, the approach I like doing, just because like the Wood Hammer kind of takes away my HP. Still a very good move, don't get me wrong. But I do like opting for Drum Beating a lot on Rillaboom, and it is one of the best moves in the game in my opinion. It is 80 base power, and it slows your opponent's speed step by 1 stage every single time it connects. So if I have Urshifu Rillaboom on the field, let's say, I will just Drum Beating the Fluttermane. It'll go down to be slower, and then all of a sudden my Urshifu will be taking out the Fluttermane next turn. And if Fluttermane doesn't really want to protect because it can't sit there and protect, because Urshifu might just be clicking Surging Strikes, right? So the core of Rillaboom Urshifu on its own is amazing. But what makes Rillaboom go for me is this Grassy Surge. And this Drum Beating is still hitting hard, right? Like, that's 80 base power before the Grassy Terrain boost, right? Like, we have to consider this, right? The Grassy Terrain allows this thing to be supportive and offensive at the same time. And that's a niche that we don't have. Like, yes, Iron Hands is a very aggressive Fake Out user, right? It can get Fake Out, it can go Swords Dance, it can Drain Punch, it can do a lot of things, big damage with Wild Charge. But it's not Rillaboom in that regard, right? Same with Incineroar, right? Yes, it had the Flare Blitz when it wanted to do big damage, but it wasn't doing big damage the same way Rillaboom is out here doing big damage. And it's the damage output, while still being supportive, in my opinion, from something like Drum Beating, is really, 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 really consistent. Because now, not only am I taking a turn to slow you down, I'm also probably, honestly, I think you can one-shot non-bulky Fluttermanes with Drum Beating, and I believe I have in the past as well. And it's, right? Well, I'm either going to kill you, or you're going to be really, really bulky, and now I'm going to slow you down, and you're just going to get outpaced the next turn, right? And it's stuff like this that allows Rillaboom to have so much usage, right? So now I can do damage with Drum Beating, I can do damage with U-turn, obviously more of a pivot move on U-turn, right? Now, I also have these other offensive support moves that I haven't even talked about yet, right? Like, let's talk about Knockoff. Phenomenal move. Rillaboom gets access to it. Rillaboom, more often than not, is gonna want Knockoff, right? Just, I can knock off Rocky Helmets. I can knock off Focus Sash. Arguably less important because I could just U-turn to break the Sash anyways, but you get my point, right? I can knock off Focus Sash, I can knock off Band, I can knock off Specs, I can knock off whatever I want to knock off, right? Maybe get rid of a Leftovers, right? Help me out in future endgames. And it's just a really good move that keeps Rillaboom active, right? You also have an option, say you don't have ground coverage. Okay, oops. I was going to say it's a horse, but it's just Stomping Tantrum. You also have Stomping Tantrum, right? Like, sure, cool, you brought your Heat Train in, you've wasted your Terra now, I'm just going to Stomping Tantrum if I feel the need to run Stomping Tantrum, right? I mean, you could get greedy and go like Terra Flying, Grassy Seed, Acrobatics if you really wanted to. I don't recommend that. Please do not run this and tell anybody I told you to run this. But I just saw it right here and I said I'm going to mention it because people are going to have fun with it. But you also get stuff I think a lot less notable, but you also get something like Brick Break. Maybe, like, if Grimmsnarl Goodra keeps rising and rising in usage, maybe Brick Break becomes a thing, right? Fact of the matter is, Rillaboom is still a solid Pokemon, right? You're probably not going to be using something like Bulldoze because you're going to be hindering your own damage with it, right? But you also have other cool options, like maybe we go Snarl, right? That's something that I think is super underexplored on Rillaboom right now. Now, granted, I think Knockoff, U-turn, Grass Move, and Fake Out are just optimal every single time outside of, like, specific instances, but Snarl is really, really cool as well, right? Like, you have the bulk, maybe you don't need Assault Vest and you opt for Snarl, but I feel like if you're gonna have room for Snarl, you probably wouldn't be running Protect or Fake Out, so you probably want it on an AV variant. But you get my point. You can run Snarl. It has really, really cool options here, right? And I think something else that Hold up, hold up, hold up. Why do I want to run this now? Who gave this thing Trailblaze? What? Why did I not know this until now? Timeout. And now I know it's not like that crazy, but like I guarantee you I could see somebody doing this where you just go like, hold on, let me make it level 50 so we can get the speed tiers correct here. But like where you just go like crazy fast Rillaboom, like you probably would go, like you could go Jolly and probably, I think it's 142 you need to outpace. Hold up. To outpace Fluttermane at 205. Let me see. 142 times 1.5. Actually, that more than does it. Is it one? Yeah, maybe it's like 139 then. But either way, regardless, you can go Trailblaze. You get a speed boost now, and now all of a sudden, you're just faster than the entire format. Now, this is completely new. I wasn't even planning on talking about it. I didn't even know it got it until right now. This is kind of cool. I don't recommend doing this, but it's kind of cool. Man, if this catches on, people are going to hate me. I'm sorry. I was going to suggest Taunt, but on my way down to Taunt, I saw Trailblaze, and I was like, yo, that's heat. But anyways, Taunt is another really, really cool option if you find a niche on your team where Rillaboom doesn't actually need the Assault Vest. Maybe you go something like Grassy Seed. Just get that defense boost and make yourself a physical wall, right? And then you have Taunt to help stop Trick Rooms and stuff like that. I think it's a very viable option, right? Now, you have other options like Bulk Up. I don't love those as much, but hey, you have them, right? And this Pokemon is going to be a force this format. It's still sitting around 30% usage in tournaments right now. It is still really, really good. And honestly, I think without Grassy Terrain, it ends up being very similar to Landorus. And Landorus went from a absolute beast of a Pokemon to a very solid piece in the meta. And I think that's just because of the way Terra happened. I have a whole video on that if you guys are looking into that. But Rillaboom is kind of in the same boat. With Grassy Glide, this Pokemon was absolute destruction. It was ridiculous. It was broken. Without Grassy Glide, I feel like Rillaboom is a very, very good Pokemon. So they tried to nerf him. They tried to do our boy dirty. They just didn't do it. They just didn't succeed, right? Like, keep in mind something else I want to talk about is you also have access now to those Trick Room teams with like the Indeedee and the Armarouge, or even just the Indeedee now, which has become a thing. Like Indeedee, Cresselia, Ursaluna, I've seen a fair bit. Obviously, they still try to tech Armarouge because, like, why wouldn't they, right? Because you have the Expanding Force. It does a lot, but now not only am I going to change your terrain to get rid of your ability to spread damage with Expanding Force, I'm also now allowing myself to be able to click Fake Out into you, which helps me stall out turns of Trick Room. Now, we always have the thing where Min Speed Rillaboom actually ends up speed tying Min Speed Indeedee, which is kind of always annoying, but you can always play it to where Rillaboom's in your back of the field, right? And maybe this actually helps like the Dragonite, right? Maybe this helps your E-Speed Dragonite where you've locked into E-Speed and they're bringing in Indeedee in the back. All of a sudden, you just pivot in your Rillaboom. Well, now you no longer have terrain, and Dragonite's Banded E-Speed is taking you down, right? It's seen a lot of good usage. AV is by far your best option for it. And I think Rillaboom right now slots in on two common cores that we're going to talk about real quick, nice and briefly. And it's this Rillaboom Heatran Fire type. Sorry, Rillaboom Urshifu Fire type. And generally speaking, this fire type is Heatran. It's just a solid Fire Water Grass core. Fire Water Grass cores have been a thing since forever. And it's basically a more aggressive Amoonguss, right? Like, you can have Amoonguss here too. I know on the team I topped the ladder with early format, I had both. This was the core of 4 I piloted around, right? You can definitely get away with both. It's basically having a grass type that can answer Urshifu and actually do damage back, as opposed to more of a passive threat. Right? Because if I do this, my Heatran and my Amoonguss mode are fairly passive, right? But the moment I have a Rillaboom, I put on a lot of pressure because now I pressure Fake Out Surging Strikes. I pressure terrain to double the healing with my leftovers Heatran, right? So I get leftovers and I also get healing, terrain healing as well. Feels really, really good. Just Rillaboom itself is that niche fake out user, and I've probably been cycling. Like, I don't even know if this video is gonna like come across the way I want it to come across. It's probably like me just spewing nonsense about Rillaboom for the past like 14 minutes, but hey, we're here now. We've committed to it. Yeah. So it just serves that one extra little bit of damage, or that extra little niche that not a lot of other fake out users can have. Like, they all have their own sort of niche, but Rillaboom's niche I feel like is less passive than the other ones, right? Like, if I'm gonna fake out, like I said it like 4 times already with the Iron Hands, right? Yeah, I can Drain Punch, I can gain health back, right? But I don't necessarily pressure the immediate damage that Rillaboom can just pressure with a Wood Hammer, right? That's doing damage, right? Like, it's gonna kill things. It's just gonna kill things. There's nothing else to say, right? Now, you could also have, like I said, we obviously have the fake out. You also have the Snarl. You also have the bulk up. It just serves that niche right now in this metagame, and probably in metagames in the future as well. Having the terrain coverage, having terrain control versus whatever your opponent might want to throw at you is never going to be bad. And in a format where Urshifu right now is your common water type, right? You're going to break it, right? A water type is almost a must, right? Because you basically have 2 ways to get around Urshifu. And with your Terra, you can actually just resist it naturally, or you can try to Terra Water. And if Terra Water or Terra Grass becomes your thing, you Terra, and let's say they choose Terra Water, you pair your Urshifu with Rillaboom. Well, now you Terra Water, now you have a water type. And my Rillaboom appreciates that more than you'll ever know. So thank you for that. Now, obviously, Grassy Glide would be absolutely busted if we still had it, right? But fact of the matter is, Assault Vest, Rillaboom is still absolutely phenomenal. I think something being slept on right now is a little bit of a core like this with Rillaboom, Cresselia, Ursaluna, and probably a fast mode. I wouldn't commit to Trick Room here. I don't think hard Trick Room is the play with a core like this. I think Rillaboom gives you so much support on a team like this, where you can now add something. They probably want your own Urshifu. The thing is just absolutely busted, especially beside Rillaboom, right? Something along these lines and close it out. Probably want to stay fast a little bit. Something like this looks really strong on paper, right? And Rillaboom is always going to be consistent, right? You get fake out pressure, and more importantly, not only do you get fake out pressure, and why I think that function makes this core function, is you also get U-turn, right? So now I can be a slow Rillaboom, I can lead Rillaboom Crest, and I can pressure having fake out if I need to get fake out off to click my Trick Room, or if I think my Cresselia is just going to survive anyways. Well, now I'm going to click U-turn, probably after your 2 pieces attack. Then I'm going to click Trick Room, and Ursaluna is going to come onto field, get its guts boosted immediately from a Flame Orb, and have 4 turns of Trick Room to work with, right? And it's just that pivotability. Is that a word? I don't know if pivotability is a word. But anyways, I think I've talked long enough on Rillaboom. It is a very, very solid piece still. Game Freak tried to nerf it, guys. I mean, I don't know if it was like they said we were not putting move tuner moves into game because we're specifically trying to nerf Rillaboom. But hey, maybe they did, right? Maybe they did. Either way, they tried to nerf this monkey. It didn't work out for them, guys. So, yeah, have fun setting Grassy Terrain and clicking Woodhammer, I guess. But with that, guys, if you do enjoy this type of content, please feel free to leave a like and subscribe. It really does help out the channel, and I do appreciate that. With that, I'm going to stop rambling. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll catch you all in a future video.